Hi, everybody. I think we're ready to start going here. Thanks for being with us today. My name is Megan Martin. I'm a real estate communications consultant, and I'll be co-hosting the live panel for you today, along with Kyres, president of Orbis Mortgage Group. We're a few months into the COVID pandemic now. Things are starting to settle down. The dust is settling. So we wanted to take a minute to sort of provide an update for where we are now in terms of residential real estate. And so we've put together the expert panel for you today.
Great, thanks Megan, and thank you everybody for joining. I think it's very important right now to discuss the industry, and we got some leaders with us today. So the lockdown ended on May 11th, really, in the real estate industry, and we're back to work. And I think from what I see, and we'll talk about today, that it's really on fire, the market right now. So today we have basically Amy Assaad. You've seen her billboards across the city throughout the downtown core. Amy's been with LePage for I think 2 decades, and she's really extremely experienced in sales and rentals of residential homes and condos, multi-res, commercial, leasing land, and new development marketing. So she has a ton of experience. She currently has over $155 million of real estate dollars under her mandate and is ranked among the top 1% in Canada for all Royal LePage real estate brokers. So that's Amy. We also have Marc Harroch. Marc's a real estate broker at ReMax Action in Westmount. Marc's been a broker for over a decade and is a consistent winner in the Chairman Club Award at ReMax. And I think you're a Hall of Famer as well at ReMax. And Marc often works with professional Montreal athletes and is mainly focused on residential sales in Montreal and Laval. So hope I introduced you guys properly here, but I'm really excited to have you guys today. So let's get going, Megan.
Yeah, well, just to let everyone know, we'll have a live Q&A session after the discussion. So if you're watching and you have questions, please use the Zoom chat feature, and our experts are available to answer them. So let's get right into it. Amy, I'd love to start by just sort of hearing your general thoughts about how COVID has impacted the Montreal market now and in the last few months, and kind of what your vision is for the balance of the summer and into the fall. Oh, Amy, unmute.
I'm so sorry. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. We started in January 2020, and it was definitely more of a seller's market. Everyone is expecting the market to increase by, 5-7%, but surprisingly, it increased by like 7 to 12%, in some areas 15%. So I would say the beginning of the year it wasn't really a balanced market, whereas now it's more balanced. Now we're seeing, there was multiple offers. Now there's still offers. I mean, the market is still extremely busy. People always have a need to buy, to live somewhere. And we had challenges during COVID because we weren't considered an essential service, and they were just making it, they made it limited to us having, emergency or direct sales that had to happen before July. So luckily that changed, but that was a bit of a challenge for everybody. But nonetheless, we were surprisingly selling properties. We needed to do virtual visits. We would do virtual visits. We sold properties without the buyer even seeing the property, surprisingly enough. And in some cases, I'll give you an example. Let's say if it was a condo, we would close without a visit. We just hold back a certain amount of money at the notary, and then the inspection would happen afterwards. So there was ways around it, because no matter what, we still had a job to do, and we're here to service the clients. So we couldn't just put a halt on everything. And certain areas in Canada, they considered real estate an essential service, whereas in Quebec, we weren't. So I'm really happy now that it's been lifted. And since then, there's a lot more activity. I mean, people are concerned to see where the market's going to go, but reality is there is a decrease, but we're looking, it's still too early to tell. But when you look at May statistics, volume of sales went down by 30%, and maybe active listings, but prices are still between 8 to 12% still of an increase. So that means definitely the market is impacted by supply and demand, but it's still a good time to buy or sell. Why? Because there's a scarcity of properties on the market right now, and that's what's keeping the prices elevated. And even if, there's these new rules, which I think Teddy will elaborate a little bit more on with CMHC, which is coming to effect July 1st, we actually saw a big rush of the market for buyers that are buying that have under 20% down. But that really doesn't, I'm not sure why CMHC decided to put these rules into effect during a time that, there's a bit of insecurity and people aren't sure what's going to happen. I feel like it was a bit unexpected, considering, just everyone's kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. But either way, there's still Genworth that's applicable. There's still private markets. Either way, that's a top conversation that Teddy will explore because he's more in the finance than in the real estate sales, which we are in. But nonetheless, what I wanted to say is that even if CMHC is coming into these new rules of just making it stricter and tighter for buyers that have less than 20%, still is not going to change the market too tremendously, I don't think. And either way, like CMHC, there's I think one out of third markets is handled by like secondary lenders or Genworth or private lenders. So I think that's. But anyways, I'll let Mark or whoever else wants to continue. But the market is still very good. It's changed. COVID really changed the way we see just life in general. Like it's no longer you always feed on people's greed and restaurants are closed, clubs are closed. So now it's been really all about home, being at home. Being in the nature, being with friends and family. So it's less of like a superficial way of living our lives. And I think that's really changed the way we're going to look at things moving forward. I was speaking to a real estate broker up north because we do a lot of business in Laurentians, and it's amazing how busy it is there. Every properties that were sitting on the market for a year have multiple offers now. So people are really looking at space, home. It's interesting to see how our lifestyle is affecting our real estate needs as well. So I have a lot of aspects and a lot of topics to discuss on this, but I'll give everybody a chance to give their 2 cents as well. Oh, she's muted.
Yeah, no, it's very encouraging to hear a positive take on things. Mark, is there anything you wanted to add on that? Your thoughts on the general market impact, any notable observations you're seeing with buyers and sellers and activity?
Well, to me, it's more business as usual. The 2 months, we had about close to 2 months off. It was a little bit difficult. We got a lot of the people that have sold before COVID started were paused. So Mark, let's go visit a property. Sorry, the general rules are you can't. We're not allowed. They're paused. So we'd have, I think it was some January to a bit late March, we were paused. We were on a roll. We were on fire. We were hot. Even like over the holidays, it was just nonstop action. And then it was just a complete roadblock. We're stopped. Right now, like once the government said, okay, you guys are okay to go start visiting, I think it just took off. Like I said, people were homeless. So they didn't notarize yet, but they're ready to notarize. People that sold their houses, all conditions were met, meaning inspection, financing, they were all done, waiting to go to notary in June, late May, are like, Mark, what do I do? Like, do I rent? Do I buy? Where can I go? I can't visit anything. So like Amy said, we did have a lot of virtual visits. That helped the market a lot. So, I mean, yes, we weren't allowed to visit, but we'd call our clients, say, hey, just send me a screenshot or a couple of videos of your place. And we were successful with that. So we sold a good, I sold 4 units just by that, which helped. I mean, at the moment, we're very busy between buyers and sellers. I think it's a little bit of even right now. And I mean, that's pretty much it.
Great. And so I guess the question's for both of you, but more, I'll start with you, Amy. Prices have gone up. Although like the amount of sales has actually gone down, actually prices have gone up in some sectors as much as 9%. And so why do you think it has gone up? And like obviously COVID, everybody's scared of COVID and this whole thing, but why are prices going up, you think? I guess I'll start with you, Amy. You're on mute, Amy. Yeah. Oh.
I'm mute, sorry. I think COVID is still kind of new for everyone to absorb what's going on. And we've never experienced anything like this in I don't know, or in my entire life anyways. But the market started off strong, and I think it is still strong. And again, it's really about supply and demand. Because there's a scarcity of properties on the market, that's what's driving the market, because there's still a need to buy, and there's still a need to sell. So people are worried and think the prices are gonna go down, but first of all, it's too early to tell. I think we're only gonna be able to tell in October what's really happening. We're also wondering if there's gonna be like a second wave of COVID. That's gonna really affect. So it's, you have to, I'm trying to tell people now is the right time. Interest rates are low. There's still a need to buy or sell. Don't limit yourself to what if is going to happen, because you're going to stay in that what if sexes. You're going to stay in that what if momentum for a long time. And then, I always see regret later. So, it all depends if, again, we have another COVID second scare of it, let's just say. But as of now, the market is so strong. Scarcity of properties increases the market. It's all about supply and demand. So perfect time to put your property for sale. Statistics show the market is still strong and it's still elevated. So I think that's really where we're seeing, that's why I think the market is still strong. And even if we're not able to necessarily sell as often as we did to Chinese and to Middle Easterns and to whoever was traveling and commuting here to Canada, okay? It doesn't change the fact that international buyers the statistics still show that it's still under 3% of our market. So our local market is really what's been driving the market. And even if, let's just say prices drop, let's just say, even if we were to see a price drop of 9%, what does that mean? We're going back to January 2020. You know what I mean? We've increased so much in the last 2 years, and there's been so much good, positive, and the reinforcement of Montreal in our market, and you can see it. There's growth everywhere. There's still projects being built. There's still, people are building new apartments. There's so much happening right now in the market that even if let's say if there is a little correction that's happened, which we can't even forecast right now, again, we'll be just going back to 4 months ago.
Yeah.
So what market that did get affected was the commercial market. Commercial tenants weren't paying their rent. So, I mean, if I saw anything that had a correction, it's been the commercial market, that's for sure. Because tenants can't afford the rent, all industries have been shut down.
And you're right, Amy, because a lot of what we see is Canada-based. Well, we're in a market of Montreal is very smaller than you don't look at the statistics from the CMHC, what they're saying, prices dropping 20% across Canada. It really it affects, like you said, that's all of Canada. Here in Montreal, it's still a very strong market, and we see it every day there. So.
Agreed.
I still think our prices are much lower for such a dense city compared to like the Vancouvers and the Torontos. We are still very, very low compared to these other big cities in Canada. I listen, if there is a market correction, like Amy said, I don't think we're going to get hit that hard, especially that our rates are so low at the moment as well.
Yeah. Hey, I think you're on mute, Megan. There.
Sorry about that. I guess speaking of rates, Marc, you make a good point. Teddy, I'd like to pivot to you. Let's talk a bit about the mortgage environment. It's impossible to have a conversation about how COVID impacted real estate without touching on rates and new regulations. So I'd really like to hear from you.
Yeah. So COVID had a tremendous impact on rates, and I'm going to talk specifically from a mortgage perspective. And I think we did one of these a month ago or so, and it's changed a lot since then. So at the beginning, rates went skyrocketed high, probably 100 basis points, 1% within 10 days. And then we had a tremendous amount of volume, refinance volume was coming in, and not as much purchase volume, just some of the deals were ending for March, but really there was a refinance volume. And then in April, it sort of died down because you couldn't visit properties, Amy, Mark, they were doing virtual visits, but the market was much slower, right? And as we saw, sales volume dropped in May by 30%, and that's related to the mortgage market directly. But then in turn, what happened was the Canadian government started buying corporate bonds, and they were putting a lot of money into the market, which essentially drove down rates, and rates went completely down. We had a rate to decrease last night. Rates you can get something very low twos, high ones right now, like very cheap rates out there. And that's all based on the corporate bonds that the Canadian government are buying, essentially, drawing up that whole, like putting money into that whole market there, which was all dry before. And so from that perspective, rates are very good. The market is very good. Banks are lending. Now, what CMHC did, and I think we have some questions on that as well, is CMHC made a change saying all insured mortgages or insurable mortgages and will have a maximum debt ratio of 42%. Before it was 44. And there's two different ratios we have in calculation that they decreased it, and they put a minimum credit score for one buyer at 680. And so essentially that tried to calm the market, but like Amy said, there's actually 3 insurers in Canada. So if you're putting less than 20% down, you have to insure your mortgage in Canada with one of these 3 insurers. The other 2 insurers, Genworth and Canada Guarantee, essentially said, we're comfortable with the market. We're comfortable with what we have. We are not going to abide by the CMHC rules. We are going to keep our own old standing rules. So, and all the banks are saying, like, if CMHC with their new rules are not going to do the deal, we can always send it to Canada Guarantee and Genworth, and they will do the deal under the old rules. So why CMHC did that? I think that they're worried from a Canada-wide perspective, right? They make decisions for Canada as a whole, where we have many different sectors. We have Toronto, we have BC, Vancouver, we have Calgary, Edmonton, where the oil fields. So, there's many different regions and many different price adjustments across the country. And what they're saying is they think prices are decreasing. Well, that could be by sector. It's not specifically here. It's not specifically in Toronto. It's going to be, case by case in different areas across Canada. And I think when they make decisions, they make it Canada-wide. And they said, let's take the risk off our books and essentially clean it up, which, people have different opinions if it's a good thing that they did or a bad thing. But I'm happy that we do have the other two insurers, which we have used a lot. Like, most people don't even know who insures their mortgage. They just know that it's an insured mortgage. And so essentially there's not really any difference which one that we use and everything. Yeah.
Okay, great. And how would you say, like, have you had any noticeable trends in deal flow? Like you were saying initially, it had cooled down a little bit.
Well, right now the market is really, really hot. We're seeing a tremendous amount of volume, and we're seeing multiple offers on properties going above asking on the majority of times. The market's really hot. Like Amy touched on, is a lack of supply in the market, and that's really low rates, lack of supply, and the demand is there. And so that's what's pushing this market right now. That's what's, and that's what's making it go. What's going to happen long term? It's anybody's guess. Back in February, nobody would have guessed what happened in March, and so it's anybody's guess in that aspect. But I do think that if supply remains at this level, and the demand is going to maintain high, then prices will stay the same or go up. Now, we have another aspect here that I think is important to realize: is Canada is a safe country, and that a lot of people might immigrate here due to the safety of it and the health aspect of it. And so if we do get more immigration in the next 6 months because of the demand for our safety, then basically I think that prices will increase even more. So there's a third aspect where immigration might increase prices even more, and that's all across Canada as a whole. I think in specific areas, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, I think those are areas that potentially might have a net price increase. Well, look at Alberta, might have a price decrease, because obviously the oil, it drives that market, and the price of oil is really dried up and everything. So that's that aspect. I'm very bullish on our market. I think that we're still pretty good in that aspect there.
I just wanted to ask a follow-up too, and this could be for all three of you. Teddy, you touched on immigration. I'm just wondering, have you noticed an impact from the United States border being closed for so long? And are you worried about it being closed for months to come?
Well, I guess I'll start there, but I think on my end, what I see is obviously Americans are not buying, and that's going to affect it. I think that from a property perspective, some tenants who, for instance, I have some properties around McGill Ghetto. The people who rented it, the students from the States, can't even get here to rent the apartment. So, so it's a little bit of a challenge. But I think that once that opens up, end of July or whenever it opens up, it's going to fall into place pretty quickly. So that's what, from that perspective, that's all I've seen from the American perspective. I don't know, Amy, you have anything on your end? Have you seen, because Americans can't get here, basically?
Well, we've had Americans that are already here. So we've had some American purchases, yes. And their funds are in the US, but you can always transfer over the funds. But I have to say my experience has really been Americans that are already here and are looking to buy. We also have foreigners. We have a lot of people from outside, well, anywhere that's listing the properties to sell. So we're still doing deals. Surprisingly, with power of attorneys, there's things that are still happening. That's so they can't come and visit, but oftentimes, sometimes they just need to know the product, what their needs are, and it's just a question of getting their money here eventually. We're able to work around these measures, so I don't know, it seems positive. And now that the weather is nice, it's easier. one good thing for buyers, I could say, that March is really a tough time to look at properties. If you're looking at a home, you can't see the roof. So now look, you can see everything. You can go in, and all you need to do is wear like a face shield. You know, we buy all these great things now off Amazon. So everyone takes, you know, precautionary measures and makes it work. But in terms of American, I can't say that we do have them that are interested, but the ones that we've been servicing now are already here in Montreal.
I think it's slowed down obviously a little bit, but technology that we have nowadays, like I said, right before, was, you know, with our Facebooks and our FaceTimes and our, you know, technology is helping us big time. I know a lot of agents in my office that sold to, you know, mainland China, people that live in mainland China through like a FaceTime call. Money obviously had to come to Canada, but it worked. In my opinion, it's more of a pause than a complete stoppage. Things are happening. Eventually the borders will open up and everything will be back. It's much better than I thought it would be in March. You know, for the first 4 weeks, it was scary stuff. You know, it's something that we never experienced, and we probably, hopefully, knock on wood, will never experience ever again. So that's pretty much the way I feel about, you know, the international buying.
Sorry, I'm always muted. Sorry about that. They don't represent entirely our market. Yes, they have and statistics show that it's not entirely our market. We do have a strong local market. Now we do advertise. We've had to adjust our advertising. We used to advertise a lot in Europe, in China, and the Middle East, and in the US, but we've been doing less of that and focusing on the local market, and we're still getting big more. So the market is still strong, if I could say. And look, everything's starting to open up. Pools are opening up today, I think officially. Restaurants are slowly opening up. Aesthetics were opened up last week. So things are just looking like we're just able to, at least to live again, you know? It's just a question, actually, and I would ask Teddy this question, is what's happening with all the people that are like the job losses, and is it going to affect really like their lending power and so on? So that's something that I'm curious to know on your end.
I'll answer that. That's a good question. I think it coincides with the question that we have. Do you believe supply may go up based on mortgage defaults from people relying on mortgage deferrals? So people who don't have a job, essentially, it's very hard to get a mortgage. You can't really you need a co-signer. You have a tough time getting a mortgage. Now, I see a lot of people getting back into work, and we're seeing that more and more now, which is a very positive thing. And so from a mortgage, from the bank's perspective, they don't want to give a loan to somebody who can't afford it. Now, if you have a loan with the bank and you're having problems, they will work with you so that you can afford it. They'll defer the payments. They'll do tons of different things that they can do. And then, you know, you can call us. There's a way that we can work with the institutions, finding different solutions. But new purchases, you need a job, right? And then another aspect is huge, is will supply go up because of mortgage defaults from people relying on mortgage deferrals? Right now, that's an unknown, right? And if people who start paying their mortgages, it's not free money. What the government did is just, you know, they deferred your payments, and you have to actually start paying your mortgage in the future. And so if you don't have a job when everything opens up, there might be some problems with supply. There might be an increase in supply, which might hurt the market. But I think that, like Amy touched base, things are opening up. Restaurants are getting back out there. You know, every industry is hungry. And what I find, we're in Old Montreal here, what I find is people are just hungry to get back to living life as it used to be. And they want to get back there, which is good, because you have to go out, people have to go out and spend money, because they spend money, it's going to create more jobs. When you create more jobs, it's going to help the economy, and it's going to go on like that. So we do want people to get out there, spend money, and then have people have more jobs and everything. It just is what's going to happen with all those mortgage deferrals. It's really not unknown, but I know the banks don't want to take back properties. That's the big thing. Their job is not to. They want to keep the people in their houses, and they're doing everything in their worlds and their control to actually do that. We'll see what happens in this fall from that perspective. But like Amy said, you know, if you want to buy a property, it's a good time right now. It's not a bad time. It's like, yeah, maybe prices might go down a little bit, but then they're going to get back up. Right?
Back up again. Even if they did, they're going to go right back up again. And we're already, look at Montreal, even forecasters, everyone's shocked. Everyone is expecting Montreal to go up 5 to 6%, which is the standard that we've seen on good years and consistency. But yeah, we've seen increases between 7 and 15% depending on the area. So it just goes to show you, we're actually, and this isn't a bubble, this is just Montreal finally its turn, you know, in the last few years to blossom. And we have been. And that's why we've been attracting so much foreign investment. That's why we've been attracting so much. The market has finally had a real push in that, and it's nice to see that. And also, I think people are going to invest more in real estate because the stock market, I mean, extremely volatile. I don't know how much money people lost in the stock market, but once they regain that, I think they're going to look at real estate and say, you know what, this is a safer bet. And it's always proven to be a safer bet.
And of all the provinces and all the cities in Canada, I think I'm happy we're in Montreal. I like being in Montreal. I think we're a safer market. We haven't gone up 20% every year for 10 years. I know, I think it's still good there. And like, yes, it is. I think it is a safer investment than the stock market and everything, you know?
I also think our city is actually, it's a safe city to live in. We have great schools, great universities, a lot of diversity compared to what we're seeing in the States right now. I mean, I love living in the city right now. You know, you can walk anywhere, you know, walk with your kids, your family, whatever it is. And I feel safe. Aside from the business aspect of Montreal, I mean, it's a very attractive city in that way. Obviously, it helps that the weather is beautiful in the summer. Wintertime maybe, a little bit more difficult. But I mean, why not? Why not move to Montreal for those reasons? You know.
Well, I'll put this question to both of you then. What advice would you give to buyers and sellers for how to gauge their expectations for the summer?
You know what I would like? I think for sellers, I think they just have to not be worried. There's still a very strong local market. I think as long as you put it to market at the proper market value, there's a ton of buyers that are interested. So, I keep on hearing about foreign investment. They're going to come, and they are still coming. But at the end of the day, there's still a big, strong local market. And if you're worried about, COVID and still worried, then, just make sure that everyone takes the precautionary measures, which is now what we're supposed to do. Make sure that we're well protected, that we have gloves, masks, and so on. So I think that I don't see any issue with that. And, it's just gauging right now. Every day is different. Every month is different in real estate. Regardless of COVID or not, we always have to adapt. And I think now is just a question of adapting to what's happening. And we don't have to do virtual tourism anymore because we can actually do the visits, which is really nice. So we were doing virtual tours and we have no choice, but now, you can actually let the people in, let people into your house, just make sure that they're safe. Buyers don't wait for a great deal because it's not happening. Clearly the market is still up. Market is still up 6 to 9%, certain areas even higher. Look at the statistics. Volume of sales is down, which is normal because we couldn't leave our houses. Now we can leave, and now we're out and about. And like Marc was saying, it's summer, it's a perfect time. So I think that, everyone has to kind of just go with what's happening now. You were planning on selling, sell. You were planning on buying, buy. Go to business as usual. That's what I think.
To me, the number one thing though for the buyers, because I have been getting multiple offers, and it's not necessarily the highest priced offer that wins. A lot of the times, obviously, there's the cash offer here and there, but I would definitely call my mortgage broker, preferably from Orbis, preferably Teddy Kyres. But it's
a good answer right there. Good answer.
It was a good ad. Definitely call your mortgage broker, get it pre-approved before making the offer. It just helps you on a buy, especially in a strong market that we're in right now. With less inventory, I feel like there's a lot more buyers. Call that mortgage broker, get the pre-approval going. It's always going to help. It's not necessarily, like I said, the highest price that wins. It's the buyer that has the capacity.
And on that point there, Marc, I think that seeing real estate brokers putting 7 days for financing in their offers because they're scared to lose the offers, which, the banks are very busy right now. So if you're not pre-approved, if you don't have the documents, it's going to be hard to deliver it in those 7 days. So yeah, you're right. Go get pre-approved, get the documents that we need up front. And then we could also, and then some people say, we see these rates from these banks that are very low, 199, whatever. A broker will be able to give you unbiased advice of which bank to go with, especially in these times, because some banks will take 3 weeks to approve you, right? Because they're going for this one special rate, this one niche buyer, but you don't have 3 weeks. You have 5 days or 7 days or 10 days. And so, or there's limitations. You can't refinance in 5 years. You can't, or within 5 years. There's a huge penalty. There's lots of aspects there. And so if you need the time to actually get pre-approved, understand the different options in the market, what's available, what are the pros and the cons for every institution, and ensure that you actually make the right decision. It's a lot of money. Mortgage shouldn't be at the last second just hoping you get approved. You should actually have a strategy to structure yourself properly in order to finance all the properties that you're going to get, not just one of them, but your long-term goal from that aspect there.
We actually had a question just come in from Matt Budd that I think is relevant to the conversation we were just having. Matt asks, have you seen a large amount of pent-up demand, seeing as those who were looking for properties pre-COVID were not able to buy? Has COVID caused a large amount of potential buyers pre-COVID fallout from the market?
Who wants to answer that first?
Maybe your Mark. You guys.
I'll let Mark start with that one. Mark, what do you
have you seen a large amount of pent-up demand, first of all?
I was trying to unmute this. So have I seen a large amount of pent-up demand?
Yes.
Well, like I said, it was more from my sellers that needed to be in a place. That was a huge demand. I did get a lot of phone calls from people not understanding why we can't see, why we can't visit. I mean, in my opinion, it was just more from the people that sold and had no place to go, more than anything.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to say that definitely we had some issues when the COVID just hit. I mean, I'm going to be honest, it was challenging. A lot of people got scared and then tried not to buy, and then it was a domino effect of problems. Because then we had, conditional offers. So it was a bit challenging, and I say in the first few weeks. A lot of buyers used it as an excuse or were scared and tried to back away. Contractually, they couldn't. And then there was a lot of laws changing about it. Is it force majeure or not a force majeure, and so on and so forth. So a lot of discussions. There's a lot of new. Everything is new with this. We really haven't experienced this. I've been doing this, like I said, 2 decades, almost 20 years. And there was a lot of insecurity with buyers at the time. But then slowly but surely that starts to change. But when news hits, anyone, there's a shock in the beginning. But now we've adapted. And now, like Mark said, there's the transactions that were ongoing. Those continue. And that was no issue. Then we slowed down. We had no choice on the matter.
And I'll tackle that last question as well. From a mortgage perspective, I think that people, if they want to buy, even if they lost their job, they'll find a co-signer. They're going to find people to buy with. So I don't think that people who want to buy before are not buying now. I think if you have to buy, you're going to find a way to buy. You're going to find a way to get a mortgage. You're going to find a way for that. I think the first 2-3 weeks, yes, 100%. But now you're just seeing everybody's coming through and everybody's like, I want to buy now. And maybe for many different reasons. Maybe people are say like, I'm at home more, I want more space, right? And essentially it creates demand, right? I need a pool. I have kids, I need a pool because you know what, like they're not going to daycare and I think a pool's a good idea. Or like there's many different reasons, or I don't need, like I'm in a condo building, I want a house. So there's many different reasons why, not just, for investment there. And there's many reasons why that people want to buy. And if they want to buy, they're going to find a way to buy with more down payment, a co-signer, whatever it is. There's a way to do it.
And I think really being home for the last little while, sorry to interrupt, has really changed the way we look at life. It's been more about family plus relationships, nurturing those relationships, and less about restaurants, bars, clothing, stores. It's really like just going back to the basics, which I think has done everyone a little bit of good.
I actually have a question, Teddy, for you. Have you seen a lot of B lending throughout the COVID? So, I mean, I know a lot of people lose their jobs or are having problems, with their down payments. There's actually 2 parts to this question is that, have you seen, a B lender jump in on an A lender? And 2, have you seen an A lender just retract their approval on a buyer?
Well, those are good questions, actually. And so for the first question, okay, I think that B lenders are there for 2 specific reasons. One is somebody who has poor credit, and with the CMHC increasing their credit scores, that might be another solution for people, but you need to put at least 20% down for them. And the second is for self-employed. And so, yes, maybe some transactions move from A to B, and that's only a 1-year thing. When you go B, alternative, it's a 1-year term. It's minimal. Your payment's minimally different. So it's really a good short-term solution. However, if you're a restaurant owner and you haven't had sales in the past 6 months, even a B lender is not going to approve your deal because they don't see those sales. How could they justify that, right? And so the other aspect is from a B lender point of view, they don't want people to just pay back not pay their mortgages and take over the property. They want people to stay in there. Now, they are still doing tons of business, B lenders. They're very valuable for us here in Quebec. It's really important. Now, there's also private lenders, and some people have gone private, and that doesn't mean it's a 15% interest rate. It could be 7%, 8%. There's privates out there that are very decent interest rates. Again, we have to justify and explain to the clients, this is the strategy. We're going here now. In 6 months, we're going to go here, and then in a year, we're going to go here, and we'll create a plan for them. And then your second question. What was your second question, Mark? I forgot the second question you asked me.
Am I on mute? No, I'm not on mute. Have any A lenders, like the big banks, retracted their mortgages?
So A lenders, they haven't backed out that much. Now, we have seen people mid-application lose jobs, and they want people to have a job when they buy there, right? And so A lenders do work with the clients, but if a client before approval loses his job, they're not going to do the deal. Now, if they lose their job while it's approved before notary, we talk to the lenders, we work it out with lenders, and sometimes they support them, sometimes they want to back out. Banks are changing the rules every day. Okay, there's like a different rule change. And so this is where it's important to work with the banks and then understand which banks are doing what and how we're going to do the deal. So it's really important that we find a good way to discuss all the files of the different institutions. Some are totally against doing a client to, let's say, maybe got his hours cut. So maybe he was doing 40 hours a week. Now he's working 30 hours a week. Well, some banks will say, no, we don't want to do that deal, but other banks will do that deal. So it's a case by case basis there. I think there's a question also on mortgages here from Jacques Zagueri. Said, do you have access to institutions that do mortgages for co-op undivided? Yes, we do have institutions that do undivided properties. And so, they are supporting us. They take a little bit longer sometimes because of the type of property, but we can do that. That's not a problem there. Megan, I think you're on mute, Megan.
Megan, you're muted.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, we're getting some great questions coming in, so thank you to our listeners. We're going to just continue our conversation, I think, and then in a few minutes we'll get to your questions, but we are seeing them. Great insight into the market, guys. It's really nice to hear a positive outlook, both from a mortgage and a real estate product perspective. Before we look ahead to the balance of 2020 and get to our questions, I just kind of wanted to ask you both, how has your professional experience been during what has hopefully been a once-in-a-lifetime experience? Like, you've had to adapt, pivot, work together in completely new ways. What would you say are the key takeaways for you guys moving forward?
Want me to
Mark,
take it?
I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, really, what I took from it was you can't take anything for granted. When you see a pause, you actually, the way I thought about it is, I mean, how am I going to afford, paying for private schools and I don't know, my mortgage, my car, my life, things cost money, and we just completely stop. For the first couple of weeks, I'm like, where are we going to go with this? But I mean, like I said, it makes you humble. It makes you want to work harder. From on those the times that we paused, I learned how to educate myself on different markets, on learn not only real estate, but I don't know how to start jogging or different aspects of the world. Learn. I actually started like reading Spanish and trying to learn different languages. It just kept me outside of my comfort zone, basically.
You got a really good tan too. If you notice, he's got a
beautiful tan.
Stellar tan. So
thank God for the pool.
Really spending a lot of time outdoors. Okay, I guess what I can answer is that I'm sorry, I don't even remember the question. Megan, could you repeat the question one more time for me?
No, I'm just wondering, what would your key takeaways be professionally from the experience of having been locked down and forced to be creative, basically?
Yeah, I think it was really adapting. I'm one of my big adapters. adapting to whatever the market is. And like I said, in 20 years, I've seen different markets. In 2002, multiple offers everywhere. 2008 crash in the States, which affected us, but it didn't really change the market tremendously. It just had a slowdown. And then it re-picked up again really hard in the end of 2009 until 2012. And then it was a busy, like it's just, the market is so interesting and you really have to adapt to it. And I mean, this one was a challenge, but I don't know how long, I just don't know how long lived it is. I think it's only been 2 months, but definitely a big shock. But again, I think we're going to recover from whatever the changes have been I'm hoping quite fast. But yeah, we've had worse situations. 2013, definitely a change in market. Then, so I've seen the market has changed. It's just the way it is. But luckily, it's not as volatile as other markets have been. Montreal's still stable. Since I've been doing this for 20 years, it's always seen an increase, maybe sometimes 2 to 3%, maybe 5-10%. Now we've seen up to 9%, 15% increases. So even if we restabilize a little bit, like I'm saying, it's still going to go back to a really strong market. It's going to bring us back to January. So what we've adapted to is, yes, we did a lot of virtual tours. And then it was like, who has the best virtual tour? Whose virtual tour is the most, you almost see the dirt on the counter. So we really adapted to that. And we also started saying, okay, well, let's advertise to local market. So we started advertising print again, magazines, online locally, Instagram locally. So we started really just targeting our market so we could focus on selling our properties to our local market. And believe it or not, strong enough. So yes, definitely the foreigners have a big impact on us, but locally we absolutely have a strong presence for buyers. So it's just a question of adapting ourselves to different markets, which we've had to do every single day of our career. So that's
I don't know about you, Amy, but like in 2012, I think it was, with the political situation going up and down, I had a harder time then than now with, the COVID, not knowing where we're going with it. I find, like I said before, maybe 3 times before, is that I find that because of, we have the Facebooks and the Instagrams, that it was a little bit easier in our business than back in 2000. I think it was 2012. How do you feel about
I don't know. 2012 was a really good year. 2013, I think in May was when it really started to slow down.
Okay.
Yeah, but that was affecting. I agree. This is just like a bump in the road, I think. It really depends if there's a second wave of this problem. That's what I'm going to say. I think it's too early for us to really judge what's happening. Even if volume of sales are down, we're looking at statistics for May and April, which the market was quiet. We had no choice. We were all locked into our houses. So I think we're really going to see what's happening. But as you see, the market is up. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be as big as an impact, and not long term. Just more like we have to rip off the Band-Aid and then try to move forward. But everybody really wants to move forward. You can see it. And I think it's going to maybe people are going to actually now focus more on their families and space. They want space. They want square footage. They want to enjoy it. It's changed the way we live our lives. And I think that's one of the biggest and greatest impacts, bringing us back to like an older age where we were just focusing on our family and kids. And so I think it's just going to, like you said, outdoor space, maybe get a better tan. I need to get on that, Mark. Swimming pool. I know you and Teddy both have pools. So yeah, something like that. But no, I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it. But again, you have to adapt every single day to what's changing in the market.
I don't know about you, Amy, but I'm seeing a lot more buyers. Getting calls from buyers. I didn't really check the statistics, but a lot more buyers are asking me for vacation homes, rentals, and buying. Rather than, because right now, obviously, we're at a pause to travel outside of Canada. I'm getting a lot of calls for like the Hudsons, the Estorelles.
They're finally getting an opportunity to. The up north market has always been okay in Montreal. No one vacation. We're not like the Hamptons and whatever. It's been a different market, but now finally they're getting their heyday. I was trying to rent a place up north, impossible. You can't even find something, any price points. It's like there's no availability whatsoever. And then all my clients now, we work a lot up north. And we work with this woman named Caroline Baudelain. Sorry, I'm very bad with names. And she's selling properties, just selling in multiple offers now. It's impossible to get a country house right now. So now they're finally getting the opportunity to see a really active market. Will that continue? Probably, because again, our lifestyles change. It's less about the superficial. It's less about greed and showing off. Restaurants, bars, everything. It's more about just being with family and enjoying the outdoors.
I have a question.
They're having their moments then.
Yeah, they're finally getting a real, this is their market, because everybody has their opportunity. But I think really you have to be balanced when it comes to real estate. Have a mix of everything. Just have a mixed portfolio. If you're only doing Airbnb, tough luck for you. That's not the ideal right now. There's always going to be a downwards market at some point in every industry. So just kind of prepare yourself. A lot of people I know were prepared.
Interesting you bring up Airbnb, because we actually have a really good question from a viewer. I have heard of big impact in rental companies such as Airbnb, luxury retreats, and they've been cutting their prices up to 30%, 30% because tourism has taken a hit. A lot of them have also pivoted to look for long-term tenants. How do you think this will affect the rental market from an investor perspective?
Luckily in Montreal, we have a lot of rental properties, which has also affected our market in comparison to the rest of Canada. I mean, why our market has also never been blown up like too high, because we still have a strong rental percentage versus ownership. Also, we're in a university town, so I don't really see it as going to being impactful too much. But there is more availability on the rental market. I don't see prices going down, although I've read different statistics and it's very conflicting. So it's normal that the consumer is very confused, even before becoming the rental kinds of information. But eventually that will change when things start opening up. So it's only a small hit right now, but once everything opens up. Also, it's not a long, nothing is long term. Once we're going to be able to be opened up completely, that's what I think. Okay. But again, I don't think people should always focus on one market. If you're going to be an investor, I think you need to have a little bit more of a variety of different types of real estate.
Speaking of different types of real estate, we have, I'm just going to get right into the question and answer period, guys, because we're running out of time, and we have some great questions. So thanks so much for your insight on the market. Let's get right into the questions, okay? So speaking about new constructions and developers, do you think they will adjust prices or slow down new projects? What are you seeing?
Well, at the moment, I mean, I still see the cranes up. There's a beautiful project that's planned by Broccolini, where the Beatrice is, Sherbrooke and Guy. Plans are still going. Prices, we don't know what the prices are, but I'm sure they're going to be competitive with the market. I like I said, I mean, it's a pause, not a stoppage. So I don't see. I think prices will stay the same or continue going up.
Okay, Amy, do you have anything to add to that?
I'm trying not to overpower the conversation. I'll let Teddy comment.
I'll give a quick comment. Also, I think there's a question about prices at 900 to 1,000 square foot. Are they going to go down? So I think that big projects take months and months and years to plan. And so because of one event over 1 month, I don't think people are going to make a drastic change. I think some of these projects are going ahead, and I think that their prices are set, and I think that the market will dictate that. Long term might change a little bit, but I think those prices are still set, and the prices will continue. And there was an Airbnb question that we just had. I think Airbnb is a very small percentage of our rental properties out there, very, very small. And so, yeah, maybe they're cutting their prices by 30%, but it's not the whole market. The rental market, like Amy said, is there's students. We have a lot of different tenants out there. And so I don't think that, and our rental rates are not that high. It's actually pretty cheap compared to the rest of the country. And so I don't think there's that much of an impact. I think Airbnb is minimal, and it's not a big percentage of our rental market. So I'm still bearish on the prices. I don't think, like I said, I think are they going to get new 1,500 square foot condos being built tomorrow? I don't think so. But I still think that the $900 to $1,000 a square foot is still reasonable when you compare it to the rest of the country.
And would you say, Amy and Mark, that you've seen the COVID impact different parts of Montreal differently? Mark?
Different parts of Montreal differently?
Yes.
Listen, at the end of the day, I'm seeing like the housing market's still very strong from, in the past couple of weeks or months. I see a little bit of a slowdown on my condos downtown, Griffintown, downtown Montreal. It's a little bit slower. There's a little bit more on the market in that, in the condos rather than the housing, the houses themselves. Pretty much it.
I've only seen really a difference when it's an elderly, like if we have like elderly clients that are living somewhere, then I really see a difference because we couldn't visit, or they're scared too. So I think that depending on where, I'm not really specific about area, but let's say example, I didn't notice a big change in the downtown market, but we were seeing a lot of sales, let's say, but in the West Island and everywhere else. But wherever we had, I would just say the most impact I feel is the people that were elderly and did more visits, and also I'd say tenants also. Any properties that we had that had tenants, it was a challenge because we couldn't access and we couldn't do much. So I think that was really, I can't say specifically to any area because every area seems the same way. It's just really been the demographic of who was residing in the property.
And a broker of mine had a question, Matt, an example, Paul, is the supply in terms of properties for sale increasing? Because of the 2 months when realtors were not considered an essential service, as you've said that supply is down, is it increasing now or will it be facing a limited supply for a while? So do you see that the supply is increasing?
We see a huge amount of increase now. There's more and more. There's more and more properties in the market. After May 11th, it was like every day, and I'm on a notifier for all new properties all over the island of Montreal. And it was just like every few minutes there's a new property in the market. So yes, so the supply is going to change. And then there's gonna be more inventory, definitely. Right now there's a scarcity, but that's gonna change.
Yeah, I think there's one more question from Matt Budd. It appears that as though every house in Westmount is on the market. Why is this? I think this market's pretty hot there, right? So
there was a $6 million sale that just happened, I think, a few weeks ago. So I don't know. Like the market in Westmount is quite good. I don't know. Usually on every given time, there's about 130 to 150 properties for sale. So I can't say how many are right now, but it seems to be just the same inventory or not. But we'd have to check. But I can tell you, usually there's about between 130 and 150 homes on the market in Westmount at every given time. I just don't know how many are on the market right now.
And Mark, any questions on why Westmount's on fire? Because your office is in Westmount also.
Yeah, my office, I mean, is it on fire? It's to me, it's the most desirable area to live in Montreal and probably even in Canada. Central to everything, great schools. I mean, walking distance. It's a great area to live in.
There's a good market too down with Ville-Marie and Montreal and Westmount in terms of increases. There's always been it's always the area that has seen the highest increases year after year. So everybody wants to live in Westmount. It's like the prime area. And it's also so it attracts a lot of foreigners as well.
And you guys are very well known in the industry. So somebody asked, what advice would you give a new agent for starting out in this market? It's a tough market. I know from a broker perspective, it's not the easiest market to start off as a mortgage broker, and being around good people is important. But what's your advice to somebody who's starting out?
Well, sorry to cut you off, Eddie. I know we're running out of time. If as a new broker just starting in the business, I would definitely call an aged broker, a broker that's been in the business for a bit, and just follow them around, try to work for them, learn from their experiences. That's the way I started. I don't know about you, Amy. I mean, you have
I would say don't reinvent the wheel. There's a system. Not something that will always work. So yes, maybe have a lot of mentors, maybe a different variety of mentors. If you listen to one person's advice, that would be the wrong thing. And I feel like for myself, I never listened to any advice I actually ever got. I listened to several people and anything that made sense to me. So you can have many mentors, not just one.
Stay positive too.
Yeah.
From a mortgage broker's perspective, I think, like you said, is have a good mentor, work with people who understand the industry and who don't panic, right? Because it's really at to stay the same level, because it's like there's highs and lows, especially from society. There's highs and lows. People are very stressed. And so if you stay cool and understand what you're doing with the team around you, I think is key, and giving the right advice, because you don't want somebody to make a bad mistake and it could cost thousands and thousands of dollars. And so giving the right advice and just working transparently with the clients is very important there.
And taking the time to gain experience. It doesn't happen right away. You need to make mistakes in order to grow.
Yes.
Exactly.
Don't be so scared of doing them. Better put yourself out there. Think less and do more. That's what I have to say.
I just want to add one thing before, I know we're cutting it close. I just want to add that through all this, I have to give it up to my sellers, my buyers, the notaries, mortgage brokers. We're all in the same boat. We're all scared at one point. And when everything opened up, I get visits. Like the first couple of weeks, you get calls for visits, and the most impressed I was is to the sellers of my properties. Letting in strangers through this pandemic that everyone has COVID and don't hang around and 2 meters apart and all that stuff. And to let them into their house, that was a huge plus to my business. I'm sure about yours too. So yeah, I mean, my point of this was just shout out to, you know, everyone helping out, staying positive, and, you know, making this pandemic a little bit easier for everyone else.
And I just want to add that don't be scared. Don't think prices are going to drop. Just keep on going, you know, with business as usual. Just try to revert back. There's no stats identifying a price change and a drop in the market. So just keep moving forward, just like usual. Keep living and doing things as planned. That's what I have to say.
Thanks so much, guys, for your expertise here. Oh, sorry, Teddy, did you have something to add?
I want to thank everybody for listening today.
Yeah.
I think it's been a great advice. I think Amy and Mark, like, really, we learned a lot, and then you guys are both very optimistic, which is, you know, like me, so which is good and everything. I like that, you know, and so I'm very happy that we did this today. And I think that, you know, people have to understand what's realistic in Montreal, not like from a Canada-wide perspective, but really the market in Montreal is good. And I'm very, you know, positive, optimistic on this market there.
Agreed. Thank you all so much again for your time. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. The video from this live will be up on all of our social media channels shortly. So if you don't need to go back to it to catch some information you missed or would like to share it, please feel free to do so. And then be on the lookout for our next webinar, which will be announced shortly. Until then, take care, everyone. Thanks for joining us.